For 60 years, humanity has peered into the black abyss above and waited. We have built giant radio telescope dishes, spread networks of antennas across the entire planet, and aimed them at the very heart of the galaxy, hoping to hear even a single, meaningful sound. We wait for a greeting, for a complex mathematical code, for at least a simple noise that would differ from the natural background of the universe. But in response, we receive only silence, an endless, indifferent static crackle of cosmic microwave background radiation and the silence of billions of stars. Scientists call this the Great Silence, and for many, it is the most terrifying fact in all of modern science, because it confronts us with an unbearable choice. Either we are absolutely alone in this infinity, or we are making a fatal mistake in the very way we search. We are like a person who has entered a vast, ancient city where lights are burning in the windows, but there isn't a soul on the streets. He stands in the square and shouts, expecting the inhabitants to come out to meet him, not realizing that the last inhabitant of the city died thousands of years ago. The Fermi Paradox, which asks the simple question of where everyone else is, may have a terrifyingly simple and grim answer that we are afraid to accept. They were here. They built their empires. They fought for resources. They dreamed of eternity. But their time has run out. The universe is not a bustling metropolis full of life and joy. The universe is a giant graveyard, billions of light years across, and we are archaeologists who have arrived too late at the excavation site. Today we must stop looking for the living, because the living are silent. We are beginning a great hunt for the dead. We will no longer look for radio signals, we will look for scars on the fabric of space and time. We will search for giant structures that continue to orbit long-extinct stars by inertia. We will search for planets scorched in nuclear fires and atmospheres poisoned by the industries of vanished civilizations. This is a new science we call Cosmic Archaeology, and its discoveries may frighten us much more than total emptiness. Because if we find ruins, we will have to answer the ultimate question: what killed them all? And are we next in this endless queue for extinction? Our investigation begins not in distant galaxies, which we could not reach even in 1,000,000 years, but right under our noses, in the backyard of our own home, the solar system. We are used to thinking that our system has been studied inside and out, that it is a safe and empty place where there are only lifeless rocks, gas, and ice. But this is a dangerous illusion. Space is vast, and we have barely begun to scratch its surface with our primitive tools. Imagine a civilization that reached a level of development allowing for interstellar flight, say, 1,000,000,000 years ago. Even if they never visited Earth personally, they would surely have sent automated probes to explore neighboring systems, just as we sent the Voyagers and Pioneers as soon as we learned to fly. These machines, which we call von Neumann probes, could have been programmed for self-replication, using asteroid resources to create copies of themselves and waiting indefinitely. But in our universe, nothing lasts forever. Over millions of years in the harsh conditions of cosmic radiation, under the impact of micrometeorites and extreme temperatures, any electronics will eventually fail. Artificial intelligence goes insane or degrades into performing simple, meaningless cycles, and durable hulls become covered with a thick layer of cosmic dust. Such a probe ceases to be an active observer and turns into a zombie probe. It is still here, still flying in its designated orbit, but it is dead. The most terrifying part is that we might see these objects every day through our telescopes, mistaking them for ordinary asteroids or strangely shaped comets. In October 2017, astronomers around the world recorded an object that shattered all our ideas about celestial mechanics. It was named Oumuamua, which in Hawaiian means scout, or first messenger from afar. It was something utterly bizarre. First, its shape raised many questions. Most asteroids look like shapeless lumps, but Oumuamua was elongated like a giant cigar, with a length-to-width ratio of about 10:1. Such shapes are practically never found in nature, as gravity tends to pull objects into rounded forms. Secondly, its movement made scientists doubt the object's natural origin. Flying past the Sun, Oumuamua unexpectedly accelerated. Usually comets behave this way when gas begins to evaporate from their surface under the influence of heat, creating a reactive thrust. No, Oumuamua had no tail, no gas cloud, and no visible activity. It simply gained speed as if it had turned on an invisible engine. Harvard professor Avi Loeb put forward a hypothesis that caused a storm. He suggested that Oumuamua is space debris from another civilization. Perhaps it was a fragment of a giant solar sail, drifting in the void for millions of years after the destruction of the ship to which it belonged. The thin and durable material of the sail could catch the pressure of sunlight and provide that mysterious acceleration. Imagine, it is not a rock, but a mangled piece of hull from an ancient star cruiser that accidentally flew into our system. It tumbled in flight, was absolutely dead, and went back into the eternal night, leaving us with questions without answers. What if observers are here constantly? In cosmic archaeology, there is a concept of hidden co-orbital probes. In Earth's orbit, there are Lagrange points, places where the gravity of the Earth and the Sun balance out. Space debris can hang there for millions of years, and it is the perfect place to hide an automated observation post. In 1991, an object named 1991 VG was discovered. It moved in a strange circular orbit, very similar to Earth's. Its spectrum showed rhythmic fluctuations in brightness, as if it were a rotating metallic object with flat faces. Skeptics called it a lost rocket stage, but no launch of that time matched its trajectory perfectly. What if it was an ancient probe that activated upon noticing our first powerful radio transmissions in the 20th century, flew closer, and then went back into sleep mode? We look for aliens thousands of light years away, while they may be hanging right next to our communication satellites, cold and silent, waiting for the moment we become interesting enough or dangerous enough. Now let's expand our horizon and look at distant stars. We cannot reach exoplanets, but we can smell their air. The light of a star passing through a planet's atmosphere leaves chemical fingerprints in the spectrum. We look for oxygen and water, but a cosmic archaeologist looks for traces of death. Imagine a planet in the habitable zone where isotopes that live for only a few tens of thousands of years are found in the atmosphere. This means someone created them just now. One marker of technology is chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. These are artificial gases that are not born in volcanoes. On Earth, we use them in refrigerators until we realize they destroy the ozone layer. If we see powerful lines of these pollutants on a planet without radio signals, it will mean we have found a ghost planet, a world that literally choked on its own smoke. We would see a monument to a global ecological catastrophe, a warning written in the sky in giant letters. Even more terrifying is the scenario of nuclear war. We know that nuclear explosions release elements such as technetium or iodine-129. If a civilization destroys itself in conflict, the planet's atmosphere will glow with these isotopes like a neon sign. We would literally see the echo of war. Knowing the half-lives, we could calculate when it happened, 1,000 years ago or yesterday. We would look at a gray, lifeless ball, knowing that there were once bustling cities and children looking at the same stars. No, in one day, someone pushed a button, and the entire legacy turned into radioactive ash. Cosmic archaeology here becomes forensic science for the most serious crimes. We arrive at a place where the corpse of a civilization has cooled, and we look for a motive, fear, aggression, or the inability to negotiate. There are also traces of terraforming. Imagine a civilization tried to change the climate of another planet by pumping sulfur hexafluoride into the atmosphere. If we find a cold planet with an abnormally high concentration of these gases, it would mean an abandoned construction site on a universal scale. Someone started to remake the world, spent resources, and disappeared. Perhaps they ran out of money, a plague came, or their home star flared up. We would see forests that began to grow but froze, oceans that began to thaw but were locked in ice again, an unfinished paradise that became a mass grave. From planets, we move to stars. If a civilization grows, it ceases to have enough energy from a single planet. It begins to consume the energy of its star. In 1960, Freeman Dyson proposed the idea of a Dyson Sphere, a giant shell around a star intercepting its light. If the builders disappear, such a sphere turns into the greatest catastrophe. Without second-by-second orbit corrections, giant panels begin to collide. The sky above the star turns into a meat grinder of twisted metal. Debris falls into the star, causing flares. Perhaps we saw this with Tabby's star, whose brightness dropped erratically and deeply. The hypothesis of a collapsing Dyson sphere remains the most intriguing. We are observing the agony of a megastructure whose ruins are turning into a ring of useless junk. There are also stellar engines, like the Shkadov thruster, a giant mirror pushing the entire system with light pressure. This way, an entire solar system can be turned into a steered ship. If we find a star moving at an anomalous speed against the rotation of the galaxy, it could be an abandoned ship. A civilization could have started a journey lasting millions of years but failed to survive the flight. Their starship continues to fly by inertia, carrying dead planets with empty cities. The captain left the bridge long ago, and the eternal wanderers fly into nowhere. Civilizations might also build eternal beacons. If rare earth metals are dumped into a star on an industrial scale, it will begin to glow with a unique signature. We were here. Such monument stars could burn for billions of years. In 2017, Przybylski's star was found with an inexplicable amount of strange elements. Maybe we are already looking at a letter from a dead civilization. We just can't decode the language yet. We are like primitives who found a flash drive and are using it as a necklace, not realizing that inside is the entire history of a lost world. The most powerful engine in the universe is a black hole. A rotating hole is a giant flywheel of energy. If you build a Penrose sphere around it, you could power a civilization for trillions of years, living above an absolute abyss, while the rest of the universe sinks into heat death. An artificial structure around a black hole would emit thermal glow with a distinct temperature, a cold black hole. If we find such anomalies in the center of the Milky Way, it would be a sign that someone has already mastered the abyss. But a mirror sphere around a hole could also become a massive bomb. If the mirrors fail, the flash would outshine a galaxy. Astronomers call these gamma-ray bursts. What if some of them are technological disasters? The explosions of the power plants of ancient gods, or the firing of weapons in a final war? War between super civilizations isn't about laser shootouts. It's a war of physics for total destruction. A sign of such a war could be the absence of planets where they should be. If a planet is blown up, it turns into a cloud of hot dust glowing in the infrared for thousands of years. A second sign is relativistic killers, asteroids accelerated to the speed of light. Upon impact, the planet's crust melts to the mantle, and everything living evaporates. We could find Frankenstein worlds with scars that violate the geometry of the crust. The silence of space could be a consequence of fear. According to the dark forest theory, those who survive are those who sit quietly. Any signal gives away a location and leads to destruction. The ruins we seek are the remains of fools who shouted into the dark. Great voids could be the result of expansion. A Type 3 civilization eats galaxies, extinguishing stars and dismantling planets. The darkness expands, and the reality processing machine is moving toward us. Sometimes findings are microscopic. Gray goo, a swarm of nanorobots capable of restructuring matter. If the swarm goes out of control, it could eat a planet in days, turning it into a smooth desert of gray dust. If we wake such a plague, it could send its spores to Earth. There is also digital transcendence, the creation of a matryoshka brain, virtual paradise, consuming the energy of an entire star. This is a computer the size of a system. We might find a blue screen of death on a galactic scale, a system that froze 1,000,000 years ago and is endlessly scrolling through the same second. A graveyard of minds locked in a silicon trap forever. All these scenarios paint a universe much older and more dangerous than we thought. Every crater or anomalous spectrum is a letter in the book of the dead. We are only learning the alphabet. Survival is the exception, not the rule. But if we find ruins, it means they existed for a long time and overcame many crises. Perhaps in these ruins, we will find a black box with a database of a lost culture. Finding it would mean instantly gaining the wisdom of millions of years. We are looking for an inheritance that rightfully belongs to the survivors. Our own signals are already going into the void, forming a bubble of presence 100 light years in radius. Anyone in this radius knows we are here. For some, we are easy prey. Cosmic archaeology teaches us to be quiet, but we have already broken the silence. Now all that remains is to wait. This research forces us to reconsider our place in the world. We are a tribe that found fragments of giant ships of incomprehensible materials on the shore of the ocean. The main question is, why didn't they save themselves? The answer could be the key to our immortality or the epitaph on our grave. Grand clues might hide in voids, empty spaces like the Buddha's void. Officially, this is the result of gravity, but it could be a map of expansion. A civilization that enclosed its stars in Dyson Spheres becomes invisible. We look at black spots and think there is a desert, but in reality, these are the walls of a metropolis that turned off the lights to avoid attracting predators. Perhaps the traces should also be sought within ourselves. Biological archaeology suggests that DNA is the most reliable carrier of information. The hypothesis of directed panspermia states that life was sown artificially. In our genetic code, a message could be encrypted. We were here. Perhaps we ourselves are a living library, a monument to a vanished civilization, and our task is to preserve this message until we are smart enough to read it. A super civilization might try to cheat the heat death of the universe by creating a wormhole into a daughter universe. We might find gravitational scars, doors that closed long ago. Hyperdimensional archaeology looks for the place where a great race packed its bags and left this reality. If we turn the telescope back toward Earth, what will remain of us in 100 million years? Cities will crumble to dust, plastic will decompose. Aliens will see only the Anthropocene, a thin layer of isotopes and rare earth metals in the geology. It will look like a short flash of madness, but in space, traces are more reliable. On the Moon, the footprints of astronauts will be clear even 50 million years from now. The flags and modules of the Apollo missions are our first museum without visitors. A long-lasting monument will be the ring of satellites in geostationary orbit. They will hang there almost forever, a ring of ruins of titanium and silicon. An archaeologist will understand. Someone lived here, went into space, but went no further. This ring will become our necrosignature, a monument to our inability to agree. Our messengers, the Voyagers, fly in the interstellar void. In 1 billion years, when the sun burns the Earth, the golden records on their board will still be intact. A being from another star might hear the laughter of a child who died billions of years ago. In that moment, we defeat oblivion. To leave a trace is the ultimate goal of civilization. Cosmic archaeology is a search for meaning. We understand how fragile our world is by seeing empires turn to dust. We are not the masters of the universe, but its fleeting sparks. But we have time, we are still alive, and can choose our destiny. Perhaps we have already passed the great filter by not destroying ourselves in the 20th century, or maybe the test is ahead, AI or climate. The silence of space is a minute of silence for those who have gone. While our hearts beat and telescopes work, we are the eyes and ears of the universe through which it knows itself. The responsibility for the memory of the galaxy lies with us. We must make our hall in this museum beautiful. Do not fear the darkness. Fear that no one will be left in it to turn on the light.